Meanwhile, audience, the Ask Me Anything session for today, the topic is quite interesting. It's the future of AI product management. Any of you have any kind of questions or any queries, you can start sharing your questions here, and then Sandeep will take it up ahead from there. So before we begin, I would like to quickly take a moment and welcome Mr. Ajay Bansal sir for today's interactive Ask Me Anything session on the future of AI product management. It's my pleasure to welcome you as our next speaker, sir.
Thank you. Pleasure is all mine, and thank you for having me. And am I
Uh,
audible?
so bef- yes, you're audible, sir. So before we begin, I would like to quickly give your brief introduction to our audience, so they'll be also aware about your experience and ask the questions accordingly. So, to give a quick brief introduction about Mr. Ajay, he leads product management at Apollo 24 bar 7. It's a digital health platform of Apollo Hospital serving millions of patients across teleconsultation, diagnostics, pharmacy, and chronic care. So he brings about 25 years of experience building consumer products, having previously worked with organizations including Oyo Rooms, Yahoo, and Easy Diner. Throughout his career, Ajay has led several 0 to 1 product launches and worked on some of the most challenging problems in consumer product growth. So, what makes his perspective particularly interesting is the intersection between consumer product innovation, growth, and the trust and responsibility that comes with building products in healthcare. So today he'll be joining us for an Ask Me Anything session on the future of AI product management, where we'll explore how AI is changing the way product managers think about customer problems, product strategy, experimentation, growth, and the future role of product leaders. So, dear audience, this is your opportunity to ask your questions here directly from Ajay's experiences and explore what the future of product management could look like in an increasingly AI driven world. So this session, so before we begin with the session, Ajay, I have a couple of quick questions for you. And once I'm done with my questions, I will have Mr. Sandeep, who is the director of PLF. Welcome, Sandeep, and thank you so much for joining the session.
Manisha, I think I have those questions. Let me ask that because I've categorized them a little bit. So let me ask those.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure. You can start with the question as Sandeep in that case.
Sandeep, go easy on me. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't worry.
So if you have the questions, or would you like me to share them
No,
here
no, I
as
have
well?
it. I have it. Don't worry. Yeah. All right. Good evening. Thank you, Monisha. Thanks, Ajay, for joining. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a product manager at Pegasystems, like many of you here, I believe. We could probably do a quick, pulse check on the chat here, if just to see how many of you actually are product managers, and just do a thumbs up on the reactions if you want to, and or chat. And then also just put out a small one word thing, just to get a pulse for me and Ajay, both of us trying to see how we have to structure the questions and the responses as well, in terms of what is the biggest thing AI is changing about your work as a product manager. Is it research, is it writing, or is it discovery, or is it just about the prototyping or decision making, or just writing user stories, or perhaps even some of the meetings, which would truly be the breakthrough we have all been waiting for as such with the AI. So yeah, I think I think that a quick check, pulse check from all of you. So audience, please, just have a one word thing, how is AI changing, what is AI changing in your work as a product manager? Meanwhile, this is a ask me anything session, just so start putting your questions into the chat right now. I'll keep trying to see how we can structure this, in different areas and different sections as such. But yeah, so just keep it, like we'll just have one clear question per message. That will be easy to respond, and it will be making sense as well. That's the only thing. So once again, thank you very much, Ajay. I want to start with a big picture, while our audience starts sending in questions. Um, from your experience, leading product teams, what is fundamentally changing about product management? I asked the same question to the audience just now, but what is fundamentally changing now that AI is becoming part of both the product and the product building process? So we have been having AI, different forms of AI, from an ML from a long time, but now that it is part of even product building process as such, what is changing? Or perhaps the other half of that question also would make sense. What is not changing as well?
Um, Sandeep, so this thing we have been kind of discussing literally, I think all of us have been discussing this literally pretty much every day, every week. Uh, so I started software development in 1998. My first language was COBOL. Some of you probably were very young or probably were in. So more I think about it, everything is changing and nothing is changing. And when I say, what does that mean? So for example, cost of building, right? So what I typically tell my team, the build got super cheap, but now judgment got expensive. So what used to happen was you would take an idea, you would validate through data, you would go to users, you will find out, in a manner where you're following the full process. Let's assume that for a second, and you'll go to the users, you will validate, you'll do research, etc., etc. So a lot of validation happened before you figured what we should build now. Now, because cost of producing a artifact or a product or a prototype is so cheap, you do that once you're done with it. So while the build got cheap, the change is that the decision has got more expensive. Now that you can do whatever theoretically, right, whatever you want to ship or build, prototype can be done and it looks nice. The product and the prototype that comes out of Claude or ChatGPT or any most other AI tools, they look so nice even after the first cut. If you show to your top management, they would say, oh, it's done, right? Why do you need more time? So the build got cheap. What do we build? That decision has become a lot more expensive.
Mm.
That is one, right? Second, we have now new breed of products, which are called probabilistic products. So, prior to this wave of technology, the products were deterministic. Users do X, Y, Z. They have inputs of A, B, C. The expected output is delta A, delta B, delta C, or something similar. Now, with the new wave of products, where inference and the LLMs take center stage for the products where it is meaningful, and we'll probably discuss that later. The output itself is a probability. So right, so what might be an output for me versus what might be an output for you might be completely different, might be similar, and even for the same set of questions, right? Because that might come from the model that is running. It might come from your personal data sets that this specific tool is using. So the outputs changed. Hence, the way PMs will measure success, right? What has worked has fundamentally changed. So instead of evaluating products on definitive outcomes, it's more about did the user got his or her job done, and measuring that job done is difficult, right? So that measurement has become more expensive because the when we go wrong, sometimes it go wrong by miles.
Yep.
Uh, what has additionally changed is now there are new breed of products in the sense that you can have AI native products. For example, Cursor would be AI native or ChatGPTs or let's say Lovable. Then you have AI augmented products. Most of us in India, as of now, right, barring few companies like Sharvam, etc., we are AI augmented, where we are using AI in doing a lot of stuff, but I see very less companies which are building AI native as, and which is fine. because that it's a different user base, different set of problems, and different set of initiatives that we need to do. But else has changed, Sandeep. What I personally believe is fundamental change has been the efficiency. If you really look at some very popular examples, probably would be uh, I think lovable, right? So if my data recall is correct, it's $100 million under 1 year, less than 50 people, right? Prior to this, such stories were very, very few, right? So probably one example that we have all of us remember is WhatsApp, but it was after 4 years, 20, 30 odd people, etc., right? But now such stories are a lot more common. So the dollar per employees is something that is really increasing on day basis for the companies who are able to do this right. And vice versa is also true, by the way. So, so there are opposite side of failures as well, but fundamentally, let's go with positives now. So I think I would summarize that, you can build stuff very cheaply. What we should build is a lot more expensive now.
Yep, yep. I think I like the way you said the process of building probably is becoming cheaper as we speak, and I mean, which also accounts for efficiency and the entire thing about what to build. Like that is probably the thing that we need to probably concentrate on. I think on the same lines, I think there is a question from Madhu here as AI becomes embedded across more products, how should product managers think about building and sustaining user trust, especially in high stakes domains? I think he asked for fintech, so I think especially high stakes domain as such.
Oh, that's very, very interesting stuff. And, I think, Madhu, I kind of resonate with your question itself, right? Because I come from health tech. So I work for Apollo 247, which is a digital arm for Apollo Group, as Monisha mentioned earlier, right? So we have to understand that as a PM who uses AI to build products or uses AI to enhance what we offer to our users, where it makes sense to use AI, where it does not make sense to use AI. So let's take concrete examples which probably will help me, answer this in a little better manner, in the sense that, for example, let's say you come to my platform, you use my AI chatbot. I will not name, right? Otherwise, it's say you're promoting your stuff. We'll do that later. So, right, so you come and you are like, and you tell this AI chatbot, uh, my kid is having fever. Which medicine, right? So you're asking AI to act as a doctor and tell you something which AI should never do that. Why? Because having fever has many, by the way, all of us are doing it, right? So I'm not going to go why we should not do it. But the problem what we do is in the following. When somebody has a simple fever, that has context, that has user history, that has demographics, that has what is happening around you. So while it's okay for AI to help you figure out what is happening, making AI answer questions like what should be done medically at this time, where it's a probabilistic model, is not accurate. Now, drawing similar examples to, let's say, fintech. You ask questions about, let's say, what is my balance, etc., right? Which are deterministic, where where the answers come from rule-based engines rather than probabilistic engines,
Yeah.
are the ones where you would probably use rules. Now, let's say there's a customer chatbot where its first idea is to figure out that what user is trying to ask. At that level, AI might work, but when the actual answers need to be given, which should be fact-based, which should be based on the rules and policies of that bank or RBI or the financial industry, plus the data has to come from your actual numbers. Rules-based answers might be the more meaningful way of going about it. The problem with using AI everywhere is that prob the r- risk of failure is very, very high. And I can give you a very concrete example here. I think it was Cursor or something in 23 or 24. Cursor, built a AI chatbot which is completely native, completely self-driven, right? Because that's what the company is all about. Uh, the chatbot invented a policy that developers can use this system only on one machine. Chatbot enforced the policy and made many people pay for the subscription twice or thrice, depending on number of devices. So the problem is that something that should have come from a rule engine has gone to AI. So the fintech is the one other extreme, right? Where the accuracy of data is far more important, rather than having these niceties or the probability or the hallucinations. So that's where you have to figure out that where the rule engines take precedence over AI. Madhu, I think this was a longish question, but I hope that I was able to answer.
Yeah, I think I would like to probably add to that because I manage a fintech product as such. So like if I can just give add to what you said, Ajay, from a fintech specifically giving an example. We build chatbots, of course. We enable chatbots in our application today, as we speak. Just to give you an example, we kind of think about restricting the use of AI and the chatbots basically to be able to only focus on orchestrating the things and
Yeah.
identifying the intent and orchestrating the workflow process. But the underlying workflow still has to be, say, for example, if you want to say, I want to create a new account. Okay, just to give an example, in a bank. So the account creation process, or will still has been still the largely same thing. It involves a lot of regulations, a lot of the documentation and things like that. So that hasn't changed. The policies haven't changed. The policies are not going to change for a considerable future, at least from now on. But so we can't rely on AI to have its own intelligence in coming up with the process itself. So in that example, we should not have the AI build the workflow. It is the workflow which uses the AI for specific tasks within that self. That is something that is how the boundary we have set up to be able to do. And just to give you the just to follow up on whatever Ajay mentioned, what is account balance? That's a very simple question. But if you ask, what is the current repo rate or something like that, what is the, let's say, how does this happen? Like what happens if I pre-close my thing? That AI can't do it by itself. So it has to be bound to a specific policy documents. Um, so just
Yep.
to, yeah, I think you mentioned about you coming from a healthcare thing. So there is a question from Vaisha. I think I got the name correct. I hope I got the name correct. In healthcare, AI can help optimize outcomes across many dimensions, but patients, doctors, and payers may have very different priorities. As a product manager, how do you decide what the product should ultimately optimize for?
Oh, very interesting. I'll try to answer this, and I'll try to be very, very objective. Uh, so why does healthcare exist? I think let's start from there, right? So AI will not change the reason of existence of healthcare. Healthcare exists to optimize for patient outcome, right? So if I have fever and I've gone to a doctor, I want to uh, make my fever go away and figure out the underlying reasons, etc., etc., right? So that problem does not go away. So every product that we design, whether it is via AI plus rule engine, without AI only rule engine, doesn't matter. The It has to be goal based in the sense that are we able to solve patient's outcome, which is patient getting better? Now, how do we do that? we can help doctors diagnose better. Uh, Actually, Sandeep, so one question that probably then, so our viewers can type in chat, right? So how do they differentiate between a good doctor, bad doctor, or a best doctor? Typically, we go, right? So more experienced the doctor is, the better the doctor is, right? And one of the reasons most senior doctors are, or let's say most, or let's say the best doctors that we think we have come across are the senior doctors, because they have seen a lot of real use cases. They have seen many scenarios, complexities around a simple fever. If let's not go somewhere else, they have seen how different things impact. So while a relatively junior doctor might give you multiple tests, etc., senior doctors, based on his or her experience, might be able to diagnose in a much simpler manner. you know you have a simple stomach pain, have a, and then you'll get better. It probably is as simple as that. So AI can help, let's say, average doctors become better doctors, because now AI can help them do a differential diagnosis, which a junior doctor might not even know, because he or she has not seen enough yet. That is one. Everything else, right? Whether it is insurance, doctor's time, nurse taking notes, they are the guardrails. What do we need to collect? For example, let's say if a patient is going, we need to collect history, we need to collect medical biometrics, to collect data. All of those are guardrails that should be given to the model to help doctor, but the goal remains same. My patient has to get better. I think that's how I would design something which is in a healthcare. Uh, for example, if you design a product and the AI model says, "Oh, I am done, you really don't need a doctor for this now," that's where you know that your product is definitely going wrong. Because you are not here to replace doctors, you are here to assist them. Model can tell you various scenarios, which ones are applicable now based on the patient which is in front of you, whether it is virtually or whether it is in person. That still is doubt.
Yep, nice one. I think audience, once again, just a reminder, this is Ask Me Anything session. Please post your questions either in the chat or Q&A. While it comes up, there is this question, in terms of what should product managers actually stop doing right now, just because AI can now do it better or maybe even faster. If I have to rephrase this question in a slightly different way, Ajay,
Hmm.
if you were hiring a product manager, maybe like in 2027 or 2028, what are you looking for? What are you looking for? What would you be looking for?
Actually, Sandeep, my answer might not be the ones that people are looking to hear. My evaluation criteria does not change, and has actually not changed. For me, these things, right, like AI tools, etc., they are just tools. Tools keeps coming and going. I've last 25 odd years, and I've seen now enough. It's almost like a senior doctor. I've seen enough that tools will keep coming. We have today these 5 tools. Pretty sure next 5 years there'll be something else. The fundamental why PMs exist is fundamentally to help people figure out what we should build next, what problem
Mm.
we should be solving, right? If there are PMs and engineers in this audience, right? So you always have a very big backlog. Your backlog never finishes. So which of those backlog items are the right areas to focus on now? That is PM's job. So to do that, a PM would always need to think from first principles. They need to ask the right questions. They need to look at the right set of data. They need to figure out for which users we need to focus our problems on. And which was mentioned on some of the earlier sessions last week also, and probably in the previous session also. They have to be thinking from user first principles always. Many a times, we will drift away to think from business metrics, revenue. Let's do this, we'll make a quick buck. If it's not passing the user first mindset. That PM was not good before, that PM is not good even now. So I think let's start from there. That is one. Second, now given that we have tools, now tools are important. Are those PMs or potential PMs hesitating to use things which are available now? Because they say that, oh, but I do it much better. That means that whole curiosity of trying something new to becoming efficient, if that is not there, that's a red flag for me. Because that fundamentally means that your PMs are still, though that person is still in the older way of thinking. That is this second bit. Third is that when you're looking to solve problems, how structured thinking you have. Now, what you can do is that so for example, in my interviews, when I take interviews, uh, I actually allow them to use Google, I allow them to use ChatGPT, Claude. I don't even care, right? So you can, for all well, open the screen and tell me that, and I've used this prompt to ask this question. Doesn't even matter. The
As an
problem
open
is that,
invitation, is there an open invitation for everybody here to apply for the product manager's role in your company?
yeah, that's fine. The interesting bit comes after it. When you have told me something, you are the owner of what you have told me.
Yep.
Then you can't tell me that ChatGPT told me, right? See, you can get your answers from anywhere, but once you present it, ownership of that information that you presented to me is yours. That is applicable in your day-to-day jobs as well. So today, I'm reasonably sure most of us use Claude or ChatGPT or Gemini to prepare our presentations, to our managers, to our CXOs, etc., etc. Trust me, if you have not seen it, you will see it soon. That when you're presenting the PPT, if there is a wrong data or fact in it, you will be held responsible not from where you got it. Previously, you used to research books, you used to research journals, paper, publications, competition data, and then you present it. If there was a mistake, you still owned it. Now that whole research bit has been compressed to probably a prompt or two. Ownership of what you present is still yours. So that's the stick skill that I would still rate high in a potential PM.
Yep. All right. I think you touched upon the tools, how they can be used when it comes to the hiring perspective. We talked about that. I think Anjali here has a different question here. Where do you think AI can genuinely improve the all the tools with Copilot, ChatGPT, and Claude genuinely improve PM productivity, product managers' productivity, and which tasks should product managers still be careful not to delegate to the agents?
Um, so Anjali, if you have been a PM, right? So if you're PM in a prior to AI era, right? So probably you would remember, writing product PRDs, which are long documents, etc. Structured, larger companies used to have a structure for PRDs, right? There are different sections. What will you do? What will you not do? The goals, etc., etc. So in the newer systems, those PRDs are bad way of going ahead, right? Because PRDs we used to become very obsolete very, very soon. That is one. So compress those PRDs into probably a prototype that you need to do. What you should own is the eval criteria. How would you evaluate your product? That should come before you write or create your first prototype. And by the way, Sandeep, I think you would remember it. So that's not new.
Yep.
So when I was an engineer before. When I started my development, we used to have is called TDD, test driven development.
Correct.
You
Yeah.
had to write tests before you write even a single test code. So we are asking to do the same things to our PMs now, right? Write your evals before you build your ship your product. And then different thing is that, because now, as I said earlier, right, because cost of building is lesser, what we should build becomes important. And for that, asking the users, will you use it? Probably a wrong question. It was wrong before. Now it's even more wrong now. What we should be asking is, for this problem, what did you do last time? Make sure that your research is based on what users have faced or done before rather than asking what they would do, because that typically would give you a completely wrong answer. Second, validate your prototypes with your users now. Previously, that used to happen after a long engineering time, right? So that validation can happen much faster now versus that used to take a lot of time. So the you can what you can do is you can use these tools to create a concept and reduce the risk of failure, which was relatively higher before, because you used to write PRDs, you will go to engineering, they will build a prototype, then you will go to users. That can be done even before you go to engineer for the first line of code. Please understand, in all my companies that I've worked with, engineering is one of the most expensive functions to go to if we probably gonna end up discarding that feature or a product. So that would be something different. At the end, right, Anjali, you are still the owner of what gets built. What we should build is something that you can define. Sandeep, does that answer in some
Yeah,
way?
yeah, absolutely. I think I mean, I definitely agree with that thing. I mean, I think there is another question here from an anonymous attendee here. Perhaps this is an interesting one. So I'm guessing this is perhaps on behalf of many of us here.
Okay.
Just I was just thinking about this when when I read this question. How it's like asking how do we lead AI product management without losing our hair? But the actual the actual question here is
Sandeep, it's a wrong question to both of
yeah,
us.
absolutely. That's why I was thinking. I probably was thinking about that when I read this question. But I think the question here is with pressure to deliver, business outcomes as we talked about, and continuously upskilling ourselves and maintain the domain expertise as well, and also manage the execution and often do all this with very very leaner teams. How should product managers manage that load sustainably?
Um, so I'm not sure how much experience you have, right? Whosoever has asked. Um, Trust me, it has never changed in last 20-25 odd years. Right. So it might seem quite overwhelming right now because so many things are happening, so much information overload is coming, so many different tools are coming. It still boils down to what do you need to deliver one. Second, to deliver that product or or let's say to deliver that customer experience, what do you need to use now? That is one. Third, upskilling yourself. Let's guys be honest. Uh, that was always needed to be done on your own time. And I can give you real example here, right? So in 2012 to 2015, approximately at that time, mobile apps became a rage across the world. And at least, people from my age, we had come from a typical website experience, right? Where my first, I've typed HTML by hand, without any AI tool, slash HTML, etc.
Yeah. We didn't
So
even have
did that
Google
mean,
Maps
right? We
handy.
didn't have Google Maps, right? So we used to have literally paper maps, right?
Yeah, printout.
So that that does that mean that learning at mobile application building, let's say 22 to 12, did my company offer me a separate time? No, they did not. We have always been expected, and that would remain similar expectation, right? So what is needed to be delivered to what do we need to do to deliver the customer value? Whatever skills and tools we need to learn them. What you can focus on is that you don't need to learn all. The problem happens, let's say there are maybe 30, 40 vibe coding tools, or maybe 10 which are more important, right? Do you need to learn all? No, definitely not. Figure out which one works for you. Do that better. Uh, I don't know the easier answer for these guys, right? So this has always been the case. This is going to be the case. Doesn't matter today it is AI. Maybe after a few years something else will come. Maybe after a few years something else will come. Learning to keep yourself updated is part of the job or the area that you have chosen to be part of. And so let's start from my case. I started coding C, C++. There was no web interface. There were no interfaces, command line. We moved to web-based development. We moved to mobile app. Now this is AI. Now this is literally fourth or fifth wave of change that I have to learn. And it's going to be same. There is no easy answer there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Madhu rightly says here, learning doesn't stop for PMs, not just for PMs. I think for anybody, any of
Everyone,
us
it's
as such,
everyone.
to be honest.
Even for engineers, guys. So
Um,
we, so as an engineer, C, C++ to PHPs to Java to mobile application development to now AI development. It's like so. Learning doesn't change. If you want to grow, you have to keep learning. Very simple, or
yeah.
you will become obsolete.
Absolutely. Then there's a bit of reflection, from Richa, but but she also brings up an interesting red flag. So I'm probably going to convert that into a question. I think I see another question with a similar thing as well.
Hmm.
It's regarding the hallucination laundering. So when AI generated information is presented confidently, but the person using it still remains accountable for inaccuracies,
Yep.
how should we think about accountability when increasingly AI is part of research, analysis, decision making, and even coding as well, to that matter, and testing as well. And why only coding, but even testing as well. So how do we think about accountability, and what should be part of the accountability, if I can add to that?
I'll have to think a little here.
Maybe on the same lines, I think there's a question from an anonymous attendee as well. Especially if this person, whoever it is, in health tech, where should we deliberately establish human in the loop checkpoints to reduce the risk of hallucinations or even the ambiguous AI outputs?
Sure. So I think I'll answer it in a little different manner. So when I think that these questions more apply to AI native products. I'll go to AI augmented products in the second part of of my answer. For AI native products, identifying what this product should not do is should be the first eval criteria. So I typically call them, let's say, the golden rules where it should always be successful. The regressions, right? What used to work before should keep working, and adversarial, right? So, for example, what this product definitely should not do. For example, in the healthcare product, it should never ever prescribe a medicine, right? Which is RX. It can prescribe OTCs. It can never ever prescribe a RX. RX in the health word is known as which needs a prescription.
Yeah.
And let's go legal here, right? So let's not go Indian ways, right? Where you can walk into a nearby pharmacy and buy anything. If a medicine has RX mentioned on the strip or on the box, legally you need to have a prescription. So as an AI, if my product is prescribing that, it's an adversarial product. So that's where we figure out that what this product should not do or should do. That is one. Second, because it's a probabilistic model, what different outcomes, so what we call them as a rubrics, right? For example, in health tech world we define, I'll actually give you an example how we go about it. So let's say if I'm building an AI product which will guide you medically to the extent which is allowed, we took 500 odd or 400 odd case sheets. Case sheets is what the structured document a doctor has prepared for a live patient, which has the history, the symptoms, the habits of patient, let's say the smoking or drinking, etc., etc. Then what were doctor's notes? Then what a doctor has prescribed, etc., etc. The 500 actual real use cases. Once my AI product is live, we test our products against these rubrics where we present this information and see what is the output to make sure that our product never hallucinates in such areas, and if it does, it's a failure problem. That is one. Now, in terms of accountability, one is right. If as a doctor it has presented you with some options, or let's say as a financial advisor in fintech, it has presented you with some options. If I, as the user of this fine product, presenting my customers or users that information, ownership still remains the person who's using and presenting. Similarly, let's say if it is my product, initially it used to be rule-based systems. Let's take example of uh, travel tech company, right? Where we say that find, let's say, this holiday, a system which identifies the best holiday for you. What Make My Trip or similar company would do, they would curate holiday packages where it has hotel rate, which has flight rate, etc., etc., and it gives you a lump sum package for, let's say, travel for two to Mauritius for 5 days, including four-star hotel, is this cost. Now, let's say AI, let's say you replace this with AI. Now, AI searches the data, curates a package for you on the fly, curates the pricing for you on the fly, presents to you as a user, right? This is the pricing for your package. And at that point, guys, this package and pricing, Make My Trip as a company owns that. Let's say if this hallucination, that the model has hallucinated and said to the user, you can get all of this for 100 rupees. Legally, Make My Trip can be held liable if they don't offer this package for 100 rupees going forward. By the way, so this is a real use case. I forgot which company. It was some airline or somebody. They had to honor what their AI chatbot told their customers what they will do. So they were sued in US. I will find the example in my notes, is probably somewhere. They presented their defense in court saying that, okay, oh, by the way, ChatGPT presented it. Court ruling was because it was presented on your platform. Accountability and ownership is still yours. I don't care about ChatGPT.
Yep.
So whosoever presents, right? It's whether it's a PPT or a product, that entity owns and is accountable for that information.
Yep. Nice one. Nice examples, actually. Thank you very much for bringing those examples. I mean, I know we are just about time here, but could we extend a little bit and take in a few couple more questions here? Uh, Thank you, Ajay. So Zafar actually brings in a question, actually two questions on career differentiation, career aspects in the AI era. If AI is AI making it easier to switch domains right now? Because can somebody switch easily from one domain to the other domain, from fintech to health tech or to agri tech or whatever? And just to add to that, I think he also brings up one more question. With all these AI, having making the resumes, cover letters, and portfolios look increasingly polished. How do you distinguish? I think you answered this, a little bit earlier. How do you distinguish a genuinely strong product manager from for his or her skills as such?
I think I'll try to pass the question too, because honestly, I don't know the answer.
Yeah.
It's a problem area. Because every resume looks great, so it's a problem. So I won't answer what I really don't know the answer to. But the first one, I think, um, I would rather say no. Given that, right? So it has never been about using the AI tools. It has always been about, do you understand the domain and the user problems for that domain? If AI has helped you learn those problems and how do you really address those problems, then yes. But that is because you have put efforts to learn about that domain and the problems that we need to focus on. It would have probably helped you learn faster, but you still need to do that. Earlier, that learning used to take time, hence probably was difficult. So in a sense, yes, but again, knowing that domain, knowing those domains problems, what are the key constraints of that domain, what are the problems, and how do you really go about addressing those problems, is still the core thing that most good companies would look at. AI tools will make it efficient when you start to actually solve it. But if you just don't understand the domain, okay, guys, let's take my example. If Sandeep were to interview me for any fintech role today, trust me, I'll fail miserably. Doesn't matter how much ChatGPT I use or Claude I use to prepare for all the possible questions, right? As soon as it goes into the deeper problem solving for that domain, I will not know the nuances. I will not know the constraints. I will not know what really happens, right? It's easier to read and say, okay, this is, but that's how it was written on ChatGPT. But in reality, it doesn't happen that way. So understanding that domain is something that will take A lot of time. For example, theoretically, if you guys go on ChatGPT and ask, help me create a health bot that would, you know, give medical advice to users. Okay, let's not go ChatGPT because they have a lot of ethical boundaries. Let's say you go to some Chinese model. They will actually let you build the bot. But on realistic scenario, how doctors behave, what happens, etc. If you don't really understand that, you will end up building a product which is probably completely wrong.
Yep, yep. Nicely said. I think there's an anonymous question here about. I'll try to rephrase this one because
Okay.
I had it. I had a similar question listed out actually for myself. So I'll try to rephrase this one. How do
Hmm.
you think about collaboration and handoffs across the from product manager to other members in the team, be it engineering, be it design, be it some of the quality aspects, or quality engineers, or experts from data or risk or compliance perspectives. Do you see those boundaries changing, or or blurring as such as AI product teams evolve?
Yes, yes, yeah, that I completely agree. So I think they are blurring. So what used to happen was that initially, those boundaries made certain knowledge. Uh, okay, I think I'll rephrase my answer. Boundaries are blurring, but the domain expertise is still there. So it can help you figure out things much more efficiently. Let's take the real example here. So let's say you are uh, signing a new agreement with a vendor, uh, and the vendor provides logistics to your e-commerce bit, right? So it's a 3PL, third party logistics, which provides 3PL, right? So you're signing an agreement, and there are certain kind of data sharing that needs to happen between these two companies. What used to happen was that a legal team will go ahead and read, there's 40-50 page document. They have to go through every phase. Product team will completely depend on them to figure out what is most important for them, etc. Right? Most of us did not really read it. What can now happen is that once it goes to legal team, they obviously will read whole thing that is legally required for them. As a PM team, we can take help of AI tools to help them. Okay, while you are reading the regular AI stuff, these are the three focus areas where we think it will conflict with what we need, or is a conflict with what our data guidelines are. So it can help those legal teams focus on those areas. That is one. Second, the one of the biggest boundary blurs that I'm seeing today that is still in the PM or build area is between PMs and designers. Where you end PM role and where does a designer role begin is becoming quite murky, and I think this will become even murkier in the next 1 year. Why murkier? Because right now most AI tools are really bad at designs. In the previous one, I think there was in Kunal's session, somebody touched upon how AI and design tools are working, but I personally believe AI tools are super bad at designs right now. They really don't understand what is happening. But what is going to once you have it, let's say we have a design system in place, so you understand what the elements are and what are the constraints, etc., etc. And let's assume that the tools have evolved to use these design systems the way it should. Today they don't. Probability that PMs end up doing most of the designs is going to be very high. So my sense is that the role of UX and design teams will evolve way more differently. That is not even known right now. Because once the design system is in place, once the core constraints are in place, if the Claude or ChatGPT or let's say Figma make can generate a componentized design which is rooted into your design system, what is the role of designer is going to become another open question, which I don't know the answer yet. And by the vice versa is also true, because identifying or writing PRDs, etc., is completely out of the picture. And typically, what I've seen, most of my UX people are have far better understanding of users. Would we even need PMs is also an open question. So I know it's a very pessimistic at the back end of our discussion, but that's I really think these both of these roles are going to evolve very differently over next 12 months. that who owns what
Yeah,
will
yeah.
become murkier.
Absolutely, absolutely. Ajay, I think we are getting close to the end, so let me switch gears slightly, and we'll play a little bit of
Sure.
rapid fire, futuristic rapid fire round rather. I'm going to give you a few short ones, first reaction, like that you get rather than a 5 minute product strategy deck as such that you can probably just play around. Let me see. This is the first time I'm trying out in my sessions as such. So, first one, in 5 years, will there still be a role called product manager?
There would be a role called product builder, not product manager.
Okay, good one. More valuable for future product manager, technical AI depth or domain depth?
Domain depth and anytime.
Okay. Third one product manager skill AI is currently overrated for.
Which problems to solve?
That was a good one. Fourth one, one product manager capability that AI is still dramatically underrated for.
Data analysis, I think, but I could be wrong there.
Okay, all right. Let's see if we can finish this sentence. It's a fill in the blanks. A product manager who does not learn to dash in the AI era will struggle.
Prioritize.
Fantastic. I think you did, you did really well. Like let's end this session with us, something for audience to actually, take away at the closing. If everyone listening today wanted to make just one change, the way they work as a product manager starting tomorrow morning because of AI, what would you recommend they change?
I think start using AI as your counterpart, not the thing that would you use to do everything, right? So, for example, use it to uh, debate, use it to ask you questions, right? Rather than saying that, okay, build it for me. Always have a two-way discussions with this, right? Make sure that it asks you enough questions so that it knows what you really want to do rather than this deciding everything on your behalf. Once you delegate everything to your, let's say, LLM partner, uh, that's actually a path to failure more often than not. And I've seen it firsthand.
Yep. So partner it and take accountability. Is that what you would say?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because
So thank you.
accountability is clear. I don't care that who wrote it.
Thank you very much, Ajay. There have been several interesting ideas and thoughts that you actually shared right from the get-go. Into when you said about what to build has become more expensive. I think I totally second that. But perhaps the bigger message is that the future of product management isn't simply about product managers learning another set of tools. It is forcing us to rethink where we create value and where we exercise the judgment on where we involve ourselves and where we take accountability as such. So thank you very much, Ajay, for your very, very candid answers, even to the rapid fire round as such. And thank you everyone in the audience. This has been a fantastic, I think, Ask Me Anything session here in at the Product Leadership Festival that we have. Over to you, Monisha.
Thank you so much, Sandeep. Thank you so much, Mr. Ajay, for such an engaging and thought-provoking session. So this was definitely one of the most engaging sessions we had till date, and a lot of audiences asking questions, and Sandeep moderating all of this with the right tone, and also reaching out to the audience to get more questions. So kept this conversations very engaging. Thank you so much, Ajay and Sandeep, for
Thank you,
this
Manisha. And
amazing
thank you,
session.
Sandeep. It was actually very interesting stuff.
Thank you. Yep.
Ajay sir, on behalf of firstly, I truly appreciate you sharing your experiences, perspectives, and practical insights with our community. And on behalf of the entire Product Leaders Forum and the Institute of Product Leadership, I'd like to present this token of a token of appreciation in recognition of your valuable contribution to the Global Product Leadership Festival 2026. And thank you
Thank
so very much for being part of today's session and giving the community the opportunity to learn from your experience.
Pleasure is all mine. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes. And with that, audience, we have come to the end of day two of week two of the Global Product Leadership Festival 2026. A big thank you to Kunal and Ajay sir once again for sharing their experience, knowledge, and insights with us today. And an equally big thank you to all of our audiences for joining us and making this conversation so engaging. I would also like to take a moment and thank Sandeep for moderating this session very well. Thank you so very much, Sandeep. And I truly hope today's sessions gave each one of you practical ideas and perspectives that you can take back to your teams and apply in your own product journey. So, we'll be back tomorrow again with another exciting line of speakers and conversation as a part of the day three of the Week to Global Product Leadership Festival. Until then, keep learning, keep building, and keep experimenting. Have a wonderful evening, and thank you so much, everyone.
Have a good night. Bye bye.
Well, audience, in case you have more questions, you can connect to Mr. Ajay sir on LinkedIn directly, and drop in your questions and get your conversations ahead.
Thank you, Manisha. Thanks,
Thank you
Sandeep.
so much, sir. Have a great
Right.
evening.